Welcome to Between Sundays. I'm Tyler, and every time I think of you, friend of the pod, I give thanks to my God. Today, we're going to reimagine our mission as a new generation and talk about the overflowing love of Philippians. But before we send our care packages across the Aegean Sea with Epaphroditus, now that they've proclaimed their love for us from their splotchna, let's welcome in our favorite co-host, Marin and Barry. Good day, guys.
Good day. I didn't say the thing about splotching on it at 9:15. I only said it at 11. So
bonus.
gonna watch it again if you were at 9:15.
That's where I was. The splotchna.
The guts.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. What's up, guys? How you been?
Yeah, how are you?
I feel this passion for you in my guts.
Nice. I like that one.
Just in time for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good.
I feel a passion for you in my
In my
splotchna.
guts. What's new? I mean,
what is new? You tell me.
all right, I'll tell you what's
Barry's
new.
got readers now.
Well, it's more
that's
like, yeah,
my
I do have
notes.
readers. Just like a half a prescription, but enough to like help me not see blurry text when I'm reading. So the thing that's new is actually what's old, and what's old is winter. And I'm talking specifically for the pigs. They are so sick of winter. They're like officially cooped up, and you can see it in their behavior. They're like snapping at each other. They're not patient. They're like, they're yeah.
Well, I got bad news for him.
What? The groundhog saw its shadow?
Yeah, I saw a shadow, and I think we're supposed to get a lot of snow this week.
I know. So they're going to have to just deal with it. It feels like a particularly long winter.
So are they upset because why? Like they can't go outside?
Well, they don't
But
like
do go
little
outside.
snow on their hoovies. They don't,
So they, like other animals, I see them frolicking in
they
the
don't
snow.
frolic.
They're not-
They stay inside and they nap all day long. And so they're just like up in each other's business all day long. And then when the food's out, we did learn the trick that Beans, our alpha, who's toxic masculinity personified, he has to go eat. We put him in the isolation pen to eat by himself, which helps a lot because then he's not bullying everybody else out of their food. But then that makes Cornbread, his brother, now the new like temporary alpha, and so now he's bullying everybody out of their food. So it's
is
a
there
lot of.
always an alpha?
I think so, yes. And in fact, when Beans and Cornbread went to the hospital because they both got really sick a couple of years ago, they went to Purdue. Like the whole dynamic changed, and Marty, the old guy, suddenly became the alpha again, and he was like on the throne for like a week, and then they came back,
Living
and
high
it was battle
so how
royale.
would it work if there was like a isolated feeding area for all?
All of them, it would be paradise, but we'd have to build all those,
Okay.
and that's the thing. So
But they would like go to their own bowl.
They know. Like Beans goes right there when he sees me. I'm like, all right, Beans, let's go. And he runs right into his spot because he knows where he's going to eat. But then the moment he's done, he's like ramming his head into the door trying to get out. And I'm like, no, man, you got to wait. You're too much of a bully. So
can they be trained? Like, can you train them?
Oh,
to,
yeah. Oh, yeah. People train pigs all the time.
let's
They
just
can
do that.
sit. I mean, yeah, it's easier said than done with 7 of them.
Let's just do that.
Let's just do
Are you
that.
volunteering?
Yeah,
come on
I'm
over.
in mid-training with the dog right now. I could just come over and
Train
apply-
them
we
both
are-
at the
what I've
same
known.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Maggie the pig is like the omega. She's not even a beta. She's like not even on the scale. She's so low in the pecking order. We might try bringing her into the house.
Whoa.
Just for a week. Just for a week
Eager
to
to
see.
navigate the fun.
Because like she just nobody there likes her. Nobody in that herd likes her, and she doesn't
gonna
like
bring her
and
into
she
your
doesn't
house?
like
Like
any
a
of them.
vacation, like she gets her
We're gonna-
own private
more
vacation.
like a trial, because if she loves it, then she's an indoor pig. Like
what if she like do you have to wear a diaper or something? Like
no, they go out. They're just like dogs, so you can take them out. They'll figure out where their spot is and they'll go out and do their thing. It's totally doable. People have indoor pigs all the time.
like normal sized pigs because she's not like a tiny.
no, she's not. She's
Pig.
not the biggest of them all, but she's pretty sizable. She's probably 100 pounds.
Yeah, like a mid-sized dog.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but I mean, she would spend all her day just like in her little bed napping. And if she did come into the house, we both know she needs like one of those like little princess,
yeah.
little tents
Canopy,
or whatever.
like a
Yeah, a little
canopy
canopy. Yeah. So, anyway, so that's what's going on is the pigs are very cooped up
to
and
revolt.
ready to have spring again.
Now the pig pen is within a larger barn.
Yeah.
In the winter, are they able to like free range in the
they're-
barn?
No, not really. They have their little pen, and then they've got their little outdoor pen, which is a little bit more drafty, but it's still not snowed on. And then there's all the snow. When it's muddy, they'll walk out in the mud. They just won't go in the snow because it's too cold. I guess. I look out there. There's never footprints.
Yeah.
Never. So anyway.
Wow, that sounds like quite the handful.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
We love them, but still just trying to. I'm still completely shocked at just how complex and intelligent pigs are, and like how much social dynamics there are to navigate between us. Like they literally behave differently when Liv is feeding them versus when I'm feeding them, because they know, okay, mom's going to do this, dad's going to do this. And so it's hilarious. It's amazing. Anyway, so we're good. We're ready for spring. How about you guys?
Okay. I too am ready for spring, but not in that same way. Like everybody's sick. Everybody's just sick all the time. And so it doesn't matter who. Like there's 1.5 people sick at all times in my house. And so today Milo and Lane stayed home because they were just not feeling good and fevers, and the schools are weird with like even if you're like 0.2 degrees over whatever the thing is,
the limit. Yeah.
They can't come to school for 24 hours after being fever free. So
wow.
Milo's move is to just like ask Lauren for a computer in his bed, and he will just watch stuff in his bed all day. So that's what he did all day yesterday. And then Lane woke up today and his stomach hurts. And so we're done with it. We're done with the whole like cold weather and
it has seemed like it's been nonstop at your house.
Yeah. And there's a puppy.
Yeah, well, when I was like without kids, I would always see people with kids who like had sick kids, and I'd be like, "Can't you just like wash your hands better or whatever?" And now I'm that. I'm that family, and Milo's been sick like the last 4 weeks. There's something new, and so we're ready for warm weather as well.
That's crazy. And you were real sick a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But Olivia never got it?
No, she had like a cold, but it's just clearly unrelated. It's super weird.
Whatever is going around is hitting people really hard, but not
really selectively.
Spreading to the rest of the family.
Yeah.
Wild.
Marin, what's new with you?
What is new? You know what? I did a lot of cooking yesterday.
So Super Bowl Sunday.
I've said it before.
You spent the Super Bowl cooking.
That's right. Just because that's what I needed to do. Cooking is coping.
So was it like cooking dinner or cooking for the week? Meal planning? What are you doing?
Little everything.
Okay.
After church, my daughter and I went to Sarga. We love the international market down in Castleton. And sometimes I just let the food speak to me and tell me what it wants me to make.
Really?
And so, yes. I felt like chili. Chili was just what I needed to do. So I made enough chili to feed 20 people.
Nice.
Not an exaggeration. We'll freeze a lot of it.
You only have 4 people in your house.
And only 3 people like chili.
And you told me this past weekend that like only 2 of the 4, half, 50% like leftovers.
Oh yeah.
So like you made chili for 20 people and only 2 of you
That's right.
will eat.
My husband and I will eat chili for lunch and dinner for the rest of this week.
Okay.
And then I made some sourdough because my life's been real busy and there hasn't been time.
Gotta do that.
So I made some sourdough yesterday. And then the ingredient that really reached out to me at Sarga, they had like chicken backs. And I'm like, you know what? We're making chicken broth tonight. Tonight's the night.
What is chicken backs?
It was just like stuff that they would typically throw away, but then they like
chicken scraps.
Yeah. They put like a really, really low price tag on it and you make broth with it. So.
And that's what you did?
Yeah. And then your house smells amazing for hours on end.
I don't know if that would have caught my attention in the store.
Yeah.
I would have walked right by that.
No, I was like, I need that. And where's the celery?
Celery is another thing I would have walked right by, but well, that's good. So you got a lot of chili on deck.
Yeah, it felt great. Yeah. Chili, broth, bread.
That's all you need.
I also bought 5 pounds of shallots and I diced them fine and put them in the freezer. So I love ingredient prepping.
Sure.
That makes meal prep easy when I can like just grab a bag of frozen shallots and I'm good to go.
Like the shallots aren't used for anything. It's just like, hey, when I need shallots, I know I have them frozen.
Yeah. What was I making the other day? Oh, I made chilaquiles for Jed on Saturday morning.
right.
And they came in clutch.
Happy birthday, Jed, by the way.
Happy birthday, Jed.
you guys do to
birthday breakfast.
What'd you
We
guys-
went to a restaurant we'll never go back to.
Oh,
and
they
then
shall remain nameless.
and then we walked around Meyer.
Yeah,
And it was great.
great.
It's a great birthday. And we hung out with you and Lauren.
Yeah, we did that.
That was probably like the highlight of the birthday.
great.
You
Yeah, we
guys are
played
the
pool.
best.
We played pool.
Yeah, your wife's
Lauren's first time ever playing pool.
Ever?
Ever.
Oh,
Yeah.
How's that possible?
I know.
Lauren and I won both games. We played
Oh
two
my
games, and
goodness.
we
Oh my
Beginner's
goodness.
luck?
We beat Marin
Absolutely.
and Jed both times.
You legitimately beat us one time. But that's only because like you
We'll
had
take
a
this-
you
we'll
had a
take this
streak.
off the pod. Yeah.
You won by default the first time.
Yeah.
Anybody who plays billiards knows what
Well,
that
if
means.
I guess we're not going to play by the rules, but the rules state if you scratch
Yeah.
on the 8-ball,
On the
you
8-ball,
lose. And
you're
so
out.
Jed, first try, scratch on the 8-ball.
Wow.
We win. I don't care if it's your birthday.
You are so competitive.
Did you guys participate or see YouthCon this past weekend? Because that also happened this weekend.
Yeah.
where our junior high and high school students had kind of their annual winter event.
Yeah.
Here at Grace.
I wasn't able to make it, so I didn't, except for I was right up there in the front with all the
Yeah.
students at Sunday morning when they were worshiping in the service.
Yeah. And I lived vicariously through my son.
Yeah. So Jaden led worship, right,
Mhm.
for it.
He's really amazing. He's doing such a great job. I'm proud of him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's a friend of the pod, so he'll hear
I know.
he'll hear your kind words.
Man. Yeah. I could have sat there all day and watched not just watched, but I could have worshiped with that group of people all day.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
great.
It was great.
Yeah.
I was very, very proud.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. Nothing else new.
Let's see. It's cold. YouthCon's over. Valentine's Day is coming. Your wife already bought herself a Valentine's Day gift. So
All right. Let's
I think-
well, no. Oh my goodness. Okay. So,
Called out.
okay. All right. So a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, Lauren texted you or you were with her.
no, this is all bread related. She's her starter
yeah, you
is
were
not
with her.
rising the way that it would in the
Sourdough.
summer because the sourdough starter is not rising the way it would because it's cold in the house because it's winter. And I said, oh, well, I just put mine in the oven overnight with the oven light on and then it's ready to go in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned that she did not have an oven light that was
What?
functioning.
No. The bulb was burned out.
That's right. She did
All
not
right.
have an
So
oven
before
light
we
that was
continue the
functioning.
story, I want to ask friends of the pod to give me your feedback. Barry, I'm
Yeah.
going to start with you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, it's
so-
your responsibility.
Okay. All right. So
No, I'm
Lauren makes me, after this conversation she has with Marin, she makes me aware that the oven light doesn't work.
Yeah.
Wait, I made you aware.
Marin
Yes.
makes me aware the oven light
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
work.
yeah.
That's what we do for each other.
And that's fine. Okay, I'm going to fix that. But Marin and Lauren were like, he'll never do it. He'll
I did
never-
not say that.
That's,
I did
I think
not
your exact
say
words
you'll
were,
never do it.
husbands won't do that. That's what father-in-laws are for.
It is what father-in-laws are for.
So, all right. So I take it upon myself. I'm like, I'm going to do the oven. Like, well, it's not a big deal. I'll just replace the oven light.
Yeah, how hard?
So this is what I need your feedback on.
Mm.
Lauren was going to the hardware store.
Uh-huh. Yes, go on.
She was already going.
Yeah.
I don't know what she needed, but she was going there. And I said, hey, while you're at it, I had already taken the bulb out of the oven. I was like, while you're at it, can you get one of these for the oven?
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't wait to tell Marin that I replaced my own bulb. And
Yeah,
So
all
I
you did
said-
was unscrew it. She had to go to
up
the store.
Did you look up like the brand or the specific thing that she would need to get?
I handed her the bulb.
Well, but it's an oven bulb. Like,
I said, it says appliance on it, appliance bulb. So just get one of these. I'll go get it. If you're going to make a big deal about you being the one to replace the oven light, I'll go get it. Take a separate trip. And she's like, no, it makes sense that I do it. All right. So
she said, no, it makes sense that I do it.
she's like, I'm just gonna tell Marin and give you a hard time that I'm the one that had to do this after all this conversation.
you have a choice. Do you have a hard time of having to go separately from your wife to the hardware
Yeah.
store, or do you get a hard time for not doing it?
So she got it. She got the right thing. I
Yeah.
replaced it. I replaced
Oh,
it.
you did. Oh, how nice of you.
And We're still talking about it 2 weeks later because Marin won't drop it.
I said, hey, you know, it would be a great Valentine's present if you fixed the oven light.
And
like,
I did.
Okay.
She,
With a little help from Lauren.
yeah, so that's what's new.
Well, the other thing that's new is
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about probably.
Yeah,
with
big time.
Reimagine. That's
Yeah.
the other big thing that's been going on.
So what do you want to do? You want to talk about sermon first? I think that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
But
let's
if you
do
want to
that.
talk about Reimagine first, we can do that.
It's all tied in together.
The sermon
so.
series is called Reimagine.
Yeah.
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 The initiative that we're starting is also called
Yeah.
Reimagine. So
Yeah.
it's all
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 right.
together. But we can start with let's start with the sermons
Yeah.
and Philippians and all that.
We're starting a new sermon series, 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Very back to back to back to back to back to back to back.
I think that's right. Yeah. To back.
Yeah, that was it. That
Preach.
was
That was
the
it.
right
No,
amount of
that's good.
specs.
Good. You're preaching 7 times in a row,
I am.
taking us to April, basically.
Yeah.
And
End
so
of March. Yeah.
The series is called Reimagine.
Yeah.
So like we do with every new series, I would love to hear kind of why this topic at this
Yeah.
time. What do you hope we gain from the subject matter of Reimagine?
Yeah. Well, it does start a little bit with the idea behind the initiative. A big kind of focus for Reimagine initiative, which we could talk more about later, but the kind of the big idea of that is looking at Grace Church and realizing like, okay, we are kind of a new generation leading this same church that's been around since 1991, but it's kind of a new generation leading this church. And we want to do some things that will help kind of invigorate us and move us forward with who we are today to better accomplish our mission.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we can get into all the specifics of what that looks like, but as I thought about where do we want to go with this sermon series? Because where can we pick up on that same kind of thread of a new generation carrying the torch forward and all that? And I thought a little bit about maybe we do a bunch of different passages that all kind of speak to the idea of legacy or carrying on the mission, or I don't know, we could go to some Old Testament, look at some narratives from the Old Testament, and then it hit me that the book of Philippians, the letter to the Philippians, is in one way of looking at it, it is kind of like Paul passing the torch on to the church in Philippi, essentially saying, like, because he thinks he could die in jail in Philippi, he's essentially saying to them, here's what I want you to never forget. Here's what I want you to do as you carry the mission forward without me. And so there is that idea of legacy, of passing the baton. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized, totally, this is it. And a lot of the things that he's sharing with the Philippians fit perfectly with what I think we need to hear as a church today. So we're going to look at the letter to the Philippians with this coming weekend. We'll do one little diversion into the book of Acts, because we're going to look at how it all started and how the church in Philippi began. But then, yeah, we'll look through the book of Philippians at different sort of advice or encouragement or even sort of challenges that Paul gives to them.
Yeah.
Isn't it essentially Paul's love letter? Like of all the letters
It's
that he
the
writes,
most joyful,
Yeah.
big time.
I love you guys.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you look at this compared to like 2 Corinthians.
Yeah.
I mean, in that one, he's like furious. He's like, this is how it is. And this is why I'm upset. And Philippians is like, guys, I just love you. And then so there's a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of some sort of like, hey, don't forget this kind of thing. And he appeals to Euodia and Syntyche to give up their quarrels and to
Quit
get
fighting.
along. But it's not like, he's not angry. He's just like, guys, I love you. You shouldn't be fighting is kind of the vibe. So it's definitely his most joyful, most loving sounding letter.
Yeah. So as far as week 1,
Yeah.
what was kind of your big idea?
So I wanted to just set up that context, the idea, the setting of Paul in prison. There's debate whether he was in Ephesus or Rome, because Luke does not mention an Ephesian imprisonment, but there's all kinds of evidence that points to that being the case. And so I agree with N.T. Wright and other scholars who think he was in Ephesus, but regardless, he's in prison. The Philippian church hears about this, sends him a care package with Epaphroditus, which believe is from the church in Philippi. He might have been one of Paul's companions, but he came from Philippi and went back to Philippi. I think it makes sense that he's from Philippi. Anyway, they send him with this care package to care for Paul, and Paul's so just overwhelmed with it that he writes this letter in response. And so multiple points in the letter, he is thanking them for this gift. He's mentioning the gift that they've given him. He's talking about how great Epaphroditus is, all that kind of thing. So I wanted to set up that context and then look at sort of what he says at the very beginning, like initial prayer that he makes for the church in Philippi. And sort of the key verse there that I really honed in on is this idea where he says, I'm convinced that God, who began the good work within you, will continue that work, will continue the work until the day that Christ Jesus returns. And so that idea of being convinced that God will continue what he began long ago, I built on that and tied it into the experience of Grace Church and the idea that we're a new generation, and I'm convinced that God will continue the work that he began years ago. So that was essentially the message.
What do you think an ancient care package included?
That's a really good question.
Because when I think of care package, I think of when I was in college.
Yeah.
And I got like gas
Ramen.
cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gas cards or like snacks.
Yeah.
Like what was an ancient care package like?
So that's a great question. We don't know, but there's another little moment in one of his other letters, and I'm blanking on which one it is, where he asks someone, hey, by the way, can you please make sure to bring my cloak with you when you come? So it's like very practical. It's like, remember, like their
He's
clothing.
in prison, right?
He's in prison.
So
it's, if
some new clothes maybe.
Yeah. So it could be clothing. It could be like a shawl, a cloak to keep him warm. Sorry. It could be some food. It could be bread. It could be grain. It could be wine. It could be any number of things. It could even be just money to help him buy the things he needs locally. Whatever
Was
the case.
this house arrest?
Well, that's part of the big question. The general sense we get from Luke in Acts is that when he was in Rome, it was a form of house arrest because he is a Roman citizen and he appeals to Caesar. And so there's certain things that happen with that. If he was in prison in Ephesus, the way that he talks about his time in Ephesus, it sure does not sound like he talks about like metaphorically battling the wild beasts in Ephesus. And he talks about almost dying.
Chains.
And Epaphroditus almost dies there. He gets really sick while he's with Paul in Ephesus. And so it does not sound like a pleasant experience. And so I'm inclined to think this was not we do not need to get into all this, but I think part of the reason Luke doesn't mention it is because he's a bit embarrassed because it was the Roman authorities imprisoning Paul, not as necessarily,
treating him like a criminal.
Treating him like a criminal, like he's an agitator and he's messing up our city. So we're gonna let him, rot in jail for a little bit and cool his heels. So, but again, I don't know. He makes one vague comment at the end about, everyone sends their greetings to you, including all here in Caesar's household or house, Caesar's house, which people are like, so therefore it must be Rome because that's where Caesar's house is. And I'm like, you think he was staying in Caesar's house? That's obviously a reference. It's obviously a reference to something being like maybe the where the Praetorian Guard stays, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the governor's like compound that includes a prison. Who knows? But
or even like a joke, even tongue in cheek, like over here at Caesar's house.
Yeah, right. Actually, I hadn't thought about that. It's totally possible. So, anyway, yeah. But I like the Ephesian imprisonment for a lot of reasons. So
in your sermon, I heard an audible laugh from Marin.
Oh,
when you just declared, if you can't tell, I love this book. Like I love Philippians.
No, you heard it from me and my son who was sitting behind me. We are both aware of your affinity for this book.
I do love it.
I want to know, and I want to hear from you, like, why do you love it so much?
Yeah.
Why is it some of your favorite scripture? You talk about it a lot. You preach from it a lot. Why is it kind of what it means for you?
I like it. I like it because of the joy and I kind of am more of a joyful person, or try to be. And so I like hearing Paul's joyful thoughts. And, but I really, really, really adore the little hymn in Philippians 2. That is the part I quoted more often than any other passage of scripture in all my sermons. And the reason I adore it is not just because it's really like a beautiful, beautiful depiction of the self-giving love of Christ, but it's because it's couched within what Paul says to them, which is you should have the same mindset as Christ. And here's what that looks like. And to me, in the time that we are living in, we're living in such a selfish time, such a selfish culture. It's all about me, 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 me. And to me, the idea of listening to the experience of Christ, the words of Paul calling us to self-giving love is so vital. And the vision of what that would look like if we all actually believed that and acted on it is just so compelling to me that the passage just resonates. So that's my reason. And there's great lines in there. People quote all the time. There's a lot of really good one-liners in Philippians that I've found the secret of being content in every circumstance.
There's
and all
a lot.
that stuff.
It's very quotable.
Very quotable.
Very, very
It's a
quotable.
it's a
So
good
much
book.
so that I went on. I got a little distracted. I went down a rabbit trail
Started reading
while
Philippians.
you were speaking, and I was like, I wonder if there's a company that makes like custom like peel and stick tattoos, like temporary tattoos, and I would get you like a Philippians tattoo for your birthday. Your birthday's coming up. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Well, okay. My facial reaction to that is, do you know, like my wife in her small group, are currently going through this like study of a passage in Philippians 4 that has temporary tattoos of the passages so that they can memorize them. And they're like, for 1 week you have that on your arm and you can memorize this, and then you go to the next part of the passage.
That's brilliant.
I know, it's brilliant.
Obviously, it's Jesus.
Well, obviously.
So I thought for sure you must have known about that.
No, I did not know that. That's amazing.
So yes, the answer is yes, that totally exists.
What a brilliant idea.
It's really brilliant. It's
How about
really brilliant.
like Sharpie until the Sharpie wears off?
That's good.
You
I
know,
like that. Yeah.
you get to spend more time with the
Yeah.
scripture that way.
You drew our attention to obviously the love between Paul and the Philippian church.
Yeah.
You focused this week primarily on chapter 1 of Philippians. What key components or things do we of this specific part of the letter of Philippians is important that we understand? Like, what did you want us to really focus in on? Chapter 1.
I already mentioned the idea that one specific line of, I'm certain that God will continue the work that he began in you. Like that to me is sort of the big idea. Continue the work is the big idea for the whole series and the whole Reimagine initiative for that matter. It's all about continuing the work that's already begun. But I also, in the sort of passage right after that, verses 7 and onwards, he says some really compelling things about what his desire is, what he's praying for the Philippians. I pray that your love will overflow more and more. I pray that you would grow in knowledge and understanding. I pray that you would understand what really matters, what is best, is what it literally says. And it's all these, this is like, think of it like a father to his child, or like a parent to their child. Like, this is what I want for you. I want the best possible life for you. I want you to thrive. I want you to be content. I want you to be happy, healthy. Like, those are the things a parent would say. This is in a similar way. This is kind of what he's doing to them. It's like, I want you to grow. I want you to overflow. I want the love you've shown to me to be just like multiplied in the lives of others. And so I found that kind of a beautiful sort of, it overlays really well onto the love and the compassion and the knowledge that we are currently in the process of growing here at Grace. So yeah, all that to say, his little opening salvos, opening prayer is, it's kind of a beautiful collection of ideas that all have to do with this idea of God continuing the work.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, it drew my attention or made me think of the people that we attend church with, because in verse 5, he says, in partnership with one another and spreading the good news. And I think so often for me, it's easy for me to be like, I go to church and I'm friends with them. I'm in spiritual community with them on a social level. I think of the people I attend church with. I think of the people I attend church with in a capacity for care and ministry, caring for people in crisis. That's all part of it, but it's not all of it. And I think it's easy sometimes for me to forget the partnership part. Like, we are in partnership with one another to carry the message of the gospel forward. And I don't know that I always think about that when I think of the people I see on Sunday mornings. I think of, we refer to the people as the flock or whatever,
Sure.
but I don't think of it always as I am in partnership with these people. It's not just friendships. It's not just we go to ministry events or we attend church or whatever.
Right.
It's a partnership to press the gospel message forward.
Sure.
And it's easy for me to sometimes misunderstand, but that word partnership really stood out to me.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, and as we'll talk about it a little bit more as we get into the conversation around Reimagine, but it made me think of one. So the concept of one.
Yeah, you're one.
We are the people that attend Grace with us. Like we are in partnership with them in ministering to spreading the gospel and pushing the gospel message forward to who we would consider to be the one person or the people that don't know or are separated from Jesus. So I'm wondering if there is like thoughts or words that stand out to you as part of chapter 1 specifically. That's like the word partnership did for me.
Well, yeah, I think another thing that jumped out at me is the idea of him praying that, may you be filled with the fruit of your salvation. Because the whole fruit of the Spirit is in another letter. That's Galatians. So it's an earlier letter. My guess is that that was a common thing he talked about as he went around planting churches. He talked about the fruit of the Spirit. And he doesn't like spell it out in any of his other letters, but it's obviously Galatians was written way earlier than Philippians. So it was clearly something that he had in his toolkit. And so I love the idea that he's saying that to them, probably having all of them know exactly what he's talking about. Oh yeah. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, et cetera. So I find that another thing that kind of popped out at me. I didn't mention it in the sermon, but yeah.
And you're right. The stuff he says, like starting in verse 9, you said it's like what a parent would say to a child or something, but I kind of thought of it as like, this is what church leaders, like this is what we should pray for every day for our congregation.
Sure. Yeah.
Like this is what we should want for the people who attend Grace, the people who are starting to think about the one person in their lives that are disconnected from Jesus. Like this is what we want, not just for the people who attend church, but the people that we want to draw in relationship with Christ. I pray that your love will overflow more and more, that you will keep on growing in knowledge and understanding, which my question is knowledge and understanding of what? For I want you to understand what really matters. Again, what is that? So that you may live in pure and blameless lives until the day of Christ's return. May you always be filled with the fruit of your salvation, like you said, the righteous character produced in your life by Christ Jesus, for this will bring much glory and praise to God. So this is what we want for our ones. This is what we want for the people of Grace Church. Yeah. And I feel like, man, if I take nothing else from this sermon series, it's like, I need to pray that more for the people I know and don't know. Sure. Because that's what we should want for people.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting that you say that about kind of like church leadership, because even that first line he says, every time I pray for you, what does he say? Every time I think of you, I give thanks to my God. Whenever I pray, I make my request for all of you with joy. Like there are times for sure when I don't feel that about everybody, but we routinely.
Okay, wait, did he write that to Corinthians though? Because maybe them are some Corinthian folks. He sure did love the Philippians though.
He sure did. But I'm saying there are times, when maybe we don't feel that way, but like I've heard enough I've been with you guys and the other pastors long enough that there are these moments where there's certain people, we'll just mention a name. We'll all be like, we love them. Like they're awesome. And it's like, there's just joy, or we think like, look at that person, look how far they've come in their journey. And there's that feeling of joy. And it does come from like, we're leading this church. This is our flock to care for, but there's that joy of seeing the growth and the self-giving love and the amazing fruit of the Spirit that's happening in our own congregation.
Or the moment when it starts to click.
Yeah.
When my friends are understanding the scripture in a way that they feel like they have a grasp on it, or when they've had a revelation or a scripture they've never read, or they never understood what it meant before. And I live for those moments. I love those moments. A friend of mine, after the sermon I gave last week, the one about wrestling with the word, she went and she did that. she said she had some words with
Yeah.
the Lord
Yeah.
and had to go,
Yeah.
wrestle with his word. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
this is the best part. Keep
Yeah.
growing
Right.
in knowledge and understanding. And if we as pastors can play any role in helping
Yeah.
even one person grow in their knowledge and understanding, that's absolutely the
Mhm.
joy that I feel. That's the best part of the job.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After service, we handed out these these booklets. So I'm holding one up now. But we handed out these booklets that walk people through not just the
Glad you said that. So the people on the
yeah, here it is.
listening.
No, I wish they could have seen your face
Here it is.
behind the booklet. I'm holding it up now.
Yeah, I'm holding it up. In that booklet, it's not just like here's what we want to do with the initiative part, but there's a 7-week devotional that and prayer guides that all written by incredible volunteers who volunteered to guide the people of Grace Church through the next 7 weeks spiritually. This week, our attention is drawn to Philippians 1, verse 6. It says, I'm certain that God, who began the good work within you, will continue his work until it's finally finished on the day when Christ Jesus returns. And that was part of your message as well. But a couple of things that stands out to me. Paul's drawing our attention to the work God is doing in us. And you said the primary message of Philippians is continue the work.
Yeah.
So if Paul is directing our attention to the work God is doing in us,
Yes.
I guess one of the questions is, what is that work? And how is it different than the work we should be continuing?
Right. Right.
So-
That's a good question. Yeah. So he says, continue, God is the one will continue this work.
Yeah.
And then he says, and I pray that your love will overflow, you'll grow in knowledge and understanding, et cetera. What's interesting here is so whose work is that? God's work or our
Ours,
work?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is yes. I think it's both.
Yeah.
And so to me, the work that God is doing in us is evident just by looking at all the fruit that we've seen over the years as a church, almost 34 years. We've seen lives changed. We've seen things like the Care Center and Lyft started. We've seen all this incredible stuff. We've seen these musicals that have brought thousands of our neighbors into a church that might never have, darkened the door. All this really cool stuff has happened, but what is required for that to happen is for a community of people to dedicate themselves to following in the footsteps of Jesus, to being discipled, to growing, and it's like God is working in us, and we are working to join him, and it's those two. It's that double commitment that makes it possible for us to become who he's called us to be.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay,
I kind of
that
see it
makes
as
sense.
I kind of see it as a both and.
Yeah. And another word that jumped out to me in that passage is the word finish. So I'm certain that God, who began the good work within you, will continue his work until it's finally finished.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel this way. We've been working on this Reimagine initiative for months and months and months.
Sure.
Some of us. And it's tempting to feel a lot of pressure with it. It's tempting to feel like the pressure's on. It could be a big weight. There's a goal. There are multiple goals that we want to try and meet, but God's going to finish it. And he started the work in us, and he will be the one to finish that work, which I don't know about you guys, but that comforts me in feeling kind of like the pressure's off. I've done work to support this church, to care for this church, but he's going to be the one to finish it. He's going to be the one to finish the work in me. He's going to be the one to finish the work in Grace Church.
Yeah.
And personally, I'm a terrible finisher. I've taken so many personality tests that tell me
Yeah.
I am
You
great.
do not see things through.
I'm a great quick start. I can get projects off the ground.
Yeah.
I like big ideas and starting those things, but in terms of finishing and crossing the finish line, I am not good at it. That's not my strength.
Yeah.
But it says right here, God's going to continue the work until it's finished. God's going to do it. And so, does that comfort? How does that feel to you guys? Because when I read that, and I read it in the devotional again, it's and when I heard it talked about this weekend, I was like, oh man, that just feels like a huge relief. Thank
Mhm.
God that he's going to finish
Yeah,
his
he's gonna
work.
do-
I don't
yeah.
have to do the finishing part.
Sure.
It's interesting. Since I wrestled with the word perfect a couple weeks ago, I just looked up, well, what is that word finish? And it's not the same as perfect, but perfect is in there. It means to complete, to
Yeah.
accomplish.
Epitelios, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just looked it up too. I knew we were both going there. Let's go.
Perfect or finish.
Yeah.
And if perfect isn't not getting anything wrong, if perfect is being complete and whole and lacking nothing, then yeah, God is going to continue the work until I am complete,
Yeah.
until I am whole.
Yeah.
And that I think sometimes when I read like he's going to do the work and he'll finish it, that sounds like the day I die.
Mm.
You know, like
To
it
you, it does?
yeah, to me that's always sounded very like, okay, until my race is run, until,
yeah.
you know, the day I die. But I don't know, reading it that way and looking into the meaning of the word, maybe it's not until I die. Maybe it's until this thing is complete, until I am complete or
Yeah.
full.
Yeah.
Perfect in a sense of being completed.
Yeah. And he does say, you know, finally finished on the day when Christ Jesus returns. To me, the biblical concept of telos, of complete or finished or that, it shows up a bajillion times throughout especially the New Testament. I mean, what does Jesus say on the cross? It is finished.
Mhm.
What does he say? You must be telos as your father. You must be complete as your father is complete and perfect. So honestly, if you really zoom all the way back out, what is it that God is completing among the Philippians or among anyone in the world? He's completing what he began in Genesis when he created humanity to dwell with him in the garden. Like that's what's being completed. And that's what got thrown off course by humanity's rebellion and sin and all of that. And so we're seeing this grand, like, narrative completion coming to a head here as Christ has come to open the doors back up to Eden, to give humanity the opportunity to come back to the presence of their God. And so now it's just the moment of spreading that good news until the kingdom of God is comprehensive and complete and heaven and earth are once more reunited in the new creation. Like that's complete. And that's the ultimate end, the perfect end of this story. And so in a way, what Paul is saying to the Philippians is a microcosm of that. Like God is already working in you. He's begun a work in you to move you as individuals and as a community towards this ultimate end of healing the broken world, of new creation. And I'm certain he's going to complete it. He's going to finish it in you and he's going to finish it on earth. So that's how I think of that concept. I always like to zoom all the way out and look at the grand narrative of scripture, but
even like this idea of cultivating fruit within us and each of us having spiritual fruit, we talked about that a few seconds ago. Like in that metaphor, then we are trees in that garden.
absolutely.
We're trees that bear fruit for the nations to come and receive, nourishment from us. We are here to bless others. The fruit isn't just so that we can be good people.
Right.
The fruit is for others as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, please get a copy of the.
He's holding it up again. He's holding it up again.
Please get a copy of the booklet and go through it. It's going to bring the next 7 weeks to life, I think, as a church community. It's going to bring Philippians to life. It'll bring our role as partners in ministry to life. So you can get a copy at Grace, or you can go to our website and grab a copy digitally. So I think we're going to reference it online and in services the next few weeks, but hope you grab one. All right. So reimagine the initiative.
Yes.
What do we want to say about this? Like what you kind of introduced this thing yesterday or this past Sunday.
Sure.
What is it and what does it have to do with Philippians?
Right. Okay. Good questions. So getting back to what I said earlier on about this idea of a new generation, a lot of what we've been talking about is what is it that, who is Grace Church today? And like, what do we have at our disposal to complete and continue the mission that God has put before us to, make disciples and launch them into the mission of God, disciples of Jesus. So how do we do that today, knowing that we are a very different church? Things have grown and developed and adapted and changed over the years. And so we've really kind of come to these two big pushes that we want to do. One of them is all about our ones, as we talked about. Who's the one person God is laying on your heart who's not currently walking with Jesus. And so over these 7 weeks, as Paul's talking about shining like bright lights in a dark world, as he's talking about loving others the way that Christ loved us, we're going to be reminded again and again of what it looks like to put that person's destiny, to put their soul front and center, and not just as next time I bump into them, I'll try to remember to be nice. It's like, no, how do I focus my attention, my prayers, my energy, my kindness, my generosity on this person so that they can meet Jesus in me? That's what, and we're going to multiply that by everybody who's a part of Grace. So that's what gets me excited on that first big component, because if you can imagine everybody at Grace having that level of focus and commitment on their ones, just imagine the number of lives that could be transformed as the Holy Spirit works through us to reach those people. So we'll be praying together. That's the other cool thing is, you've got a one, you've got a one. I will now be praying not just for my one, but for y'all's ones. And it's this communal kind of buy-in of that vision. So that's one big component of it. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to the whole concept of the ones and how that fits into all this?
No, I think the temptation, because we've talked about this for many years, the concept of the one. Yeah. The temptation is to kind of feel like it's a project.
Right.
Like these people are projects.
Right. And
I think what we had talked about a little bit earlier about kind of viewing in chapter 1 of just kind of the idea of the partnership in ministry and what we want for the people of not just Grace Church, but that we are in partnership with and bearing this fruit and the things that we would pray for our community. Like that is what you would want for anyone in your life. It doesn't have to just be one person.
Right.
But we want to focus on, we want to make it as simple as possible. Think of just one person, because you probably have a lot of people that you could,
right.
You're wishing would be not separated from God, but just think of one and then dedicate time to like pray for that person, pray Philippians 1 for that person, you know? And so my temptation in the past has been like, I don't want this person to feel like a project. Like I don't want to feel, and I think that shifting my perspective and viewing like myself in partnership with the people of Grace Church to pray these good things for people that I know that don't have a relationship or used to have a relationship with Christ.
Sure.
And just being like, okay, I know a bunch. So who's one one person that of that group that I could just like focus my attention with and in partnership with the people of Grace. I think that's a cool concept.
I'm excited to be just not resurrecting this language, but like kind of zeroing in on this language of the one again.
Yeah.
Because we are a different church, and some of us who've been around for a while are very accustomed to that idea of the one. Others have not heard it before.
True.
It's a brand new concept to them.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, even as we go throughout this series, I'd like to get practical with like, well, what if I don't know how to talk to my one?
Right.
What if I don't know where to begin? Or what if my one doesn't live in the area? What if my one is, for example, my one is in Chicago?
Sure.
You know, I'm excited to just kind of dig deeper into this conversation and talk about where we're all at with that. But one of the things I'm also excited about is what you just said. My one lives in Chicago, but Jed's one lives in Grace's backyard. Right.
Yeah.
And what you said about us being partners, like what I do is helping to reach Jed's one.
Sure.
Right. And like, I'm praying not just for mine, but for his and for yours and for yours.
Yeah.
And it's this partnership in ministry. I'm excited to see just how that connects us as a church even closer together.
Yeah, that's good.
And like how excited we will be and should be when people catch on to the concept of like, who is just one person? Yeah. And then that person actually like forms a relationship. Like I've been praying for this person. I mean, Reimagine's a 2-year initiative. I've been praying for this person for 2 years. People have been praying for this person or these people for 2 years.
Yeah.
How excited should our entire community be when we see that person enter into a relationship with Jesus or darken the doors of a church or come to Grace Church events or whatever? Like we should like celebrate like crazy because we're all in prayer and partnership with one another for these people.
Yeah. And I think, it's a good reminder, and I'll be sure to talk about this as we go through the series, that like, you're right. Your one is not a project, but I wonder if this is a more appropriate word. Your one is not a project. It's a passion. Like, what does it look like for it to be a passion of yours that this person comes to know the Lord? And that might just mean I'm going to pray fervently for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can do. They don't want to talk about faith. They're hostile to the idea of Christianity, but I can pray that the Spirit moves. Like that's a passion that can go much farther than just like some sort of project. Like, okay, well, I've got 2 years to make him a Christian. Like, that's not what this is about.
Yeah,
Right. It's a passion. So,
Yeah.
So that's one big part of it, is all about our ones. I'm really excited to see what happens as we kind of re-engage that idea. The other big part of the campaign, the initiative, is all about kind of our physical space, the building that we have. It is an incredible gift. Obviously, the building that we have is wonderful. The space, the rooms, the auditorium. I mean, it's like we've got some really amazing space. And I routinely hear people say like just how in awe they are, even of how it is now when they come in, and they're just like my one actually came to the musical for the first time a couple years ago, and when he came in, he was just a big, wide-eyed, like, wow, this is a really, really nice space. So it's a great gift, but lots of the way that our space was designed for who we were 15 or 20 years ago, and I mentioned it in the series, but like 20 years ago, we did the Imagine campaign, and this is called Reimagine. That's a little not so subtle hint of some of our past, but that was a building campaign that allowed us to have some of this beautiful space. That was a gift from an earlier generation at Grace Church. But now we have to think differently. Okay, the world has changed post-COVID. We're a different church than we were 15, 20 years ago. And there may be other opportunities with the space that we have to reach our neighbors in ways that we wouldn't have really been thinking about 15 or 20 years ago. And so we're going to do that. We're going to try to raise some money as a community to make some upgrades and improvements to our building that would allow us to overall open our building up more to our community, to be more of a community center than just a building that does church stuff for church people. Mm-hmm. Like, how do we make our building, our space, a gift to our neighbors, a place that they want to be, a place that they want to use? Things like opening the cafe throughout the week, and having co-working space, and actually providing gainful employment for adults with disabilities by having them be able to work at the cafe, and having all the support structures for that. Like, those are things that we can do to like tangibly support our community, give them space they can book, and office space, and all kinds of things. So there's a bunch of projects that we're going to do, and I won't rehash them all. You can go back and watch the sermon if you want to see me lay out all the projects with all the images and renders and stuff like that. But they all kind of go along that same theme of opening our building up to the community, creating a more welcoming and accessible atmosphere, and just kind of throwing our doors open a bit more wide to our neighbors.
I love that.
Yeah.
So little peek behind the curtain. Why did we choose? So there's like 4 or 5 different buckets of projects that we want to fulfill through this initiative. Why do you feel, or what can we say about how we came to the decision of what we chose? Like,
right. Yeah. We had a long list.
We had a long list of things.
Yeah.
But we kind of all focused our attention on how do we make this place a more welcoming, accessible, like you said, environment, everything from kids to making our front door more easily accessible, more of a focused front door, and a number of things. So kind of take us through the process of how we got to that decision. Cause we also had things on there, that who knows if we'll ever do, but they could have just as easily been on this list. But talk a little bit about why we felt like the projects we chose were important. Well,
I without meaning to have too much alliteration, there's kind of 3 different buckets that these projects all fall into. One of them is obligation. Like, we kind of have to do some of these things. And that includes like the roof projects, like that. If we don't fix our roof, we don't have insurance coverage, and then we are not good stewards of the building that we have. So that has to happen. This will help us take the load off of our annual budget by having it be in project form, we can actually take care of bigger amounts of roof repairs and things and HVAC and maybe parking lot, like that kind of stuff. We can do that more at a go, which is great. So obligation, we have to do some stuff. There's probably some stuff I would put in the overdue category. So things like we're a little behind the 8 ball in getting security doors for our kids' hallway. That in retrospect is something we probably should have done 10 years ago. Our world has changed, and that creates not only a better atmosphere that feels more safe and welcoming for kids and parents especially, but also is safer and actually, gives us the ability to lock those doors and keep our kids safe in the event of an emergency. So, and then like the care center warehouse, that's another overdue thing. Central auditorium has been overflow for the care center warehouse, and it just it's no fun for anybody when we're trying to use that space for anything else. And so it's time to give them permanent warehouse space. And then I would say the third bucket is like opportunities. There are things that we could be doing that we have this space, and it would not be too difficult to actually take a big step in the right direction. The cafe was, as I said in the service, it was funded by one family at Grace that just felt like being extremely generous. We were able to build that and the new bathrooms with no campaign needed. But now we see the opportunity of the rest of our lobby space where we could be creating space that our neighbors would want to come and be, and our congregation would want to come and be, and like co-working space, couches and seats and private little meeting rooms that you could book and a playground and things that, and an accessible drop-off lane, all these different things that kind of help to create an atmosphere that is welcoming and open to our community.
It's a third space.
It's a third space at a time, interestingly, when companies like Starbucks are moving away from that. So when I started working at Starbucks in 2004, that was the first place I'd ever heard of a third space. That's what they trained us on. We're here to create a third space for people, not home, not work, but a third space. And so that was our whole thing. We were creating an atmosphere where people would come and feel at home away from home. Well, Starbucks, it literally went out the window when they put windows and started doing drive-thrus, because now it became a drink delivery business. And even the internal side, it got moved way away from like the third space atmosphere. So much so that I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that Starbucks is now going to start restricting people. If you're not buy a drink, you can't be in our space.
Right.
So, So all that to say, they're moving away from that at a time when people are spending more and more time alone at home and looking at their screens and things like that. And so maybe we're foolish, or maybe we're actually moving into an opportunity space by creating space that our community would want to come and spend time, and a place that feels safe and inviting and welcoming. And I'm just dreaming at this point, but as I imagine a few years down the road, as this cafe is known and people are coming to use it, and there's people with disabilities who are working at the cafe, I just imagine the good vibes are going to be off the charts, because it's going to be like opportunities for people to just experience joy. We believe deeply that people with disabilities are a significant gift to our community, and it will be an opportunity to even invite our neighbors into, hey, this is what it's like to make room. What a gift that is. And who knows what they're going to meet or what they're going to experience as they come into our doors. So it's an opportunity. And there's a hunger for it. There's a bunch of places around that have little co-working space. Java House in Clay Terrace is one example. I go in there and there's all these little meeting rooms and conference rooms, and there's people in there all the time. There's a need for it, especially now that people are working from home so much more.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity. And with some of our new signage and with some of the we want to put up kind of a big branding wall that has a bunch of information about who we are and our values. Like, that's the kind of stuff that passively introduces our neighbors to who we are, what makes us different, and might just pique their interest. Like, oh, what a care center. That's crazy.
So no matter when it happens, change is hard for everybody, whether it's, even if it's spirit led.
Yeah.
So how would you go about encouraging people who are going to spend the next 7 weeks being like, all right, I got to figure out if I'm going to jump in on Reimagine with the both prongs, with the one idea and concept and a financial sacrifice. So how should we go about encouraging people who are hesitant or unsure about Reimagine to kind of give the vision a shot? How do we do that? How would you go about encouraging people that may be hesitant?
I would say it's all in the name, reimagine, because like I just think from an individual to a communal perspective, we're at a time where we need to think differently about the world that we're living in. Like I don't want to go too far down a rabbit trail here, but even just like I think we're getting to the point where people are starting to think differently about their devices and their social media and the habits, and people are starting to be like, I just don't think this is healthy anymore, you know. And we're seeing people leaving social media platforms or just fading away from that because they're not finding it like life-giving anymore. And so it's like it feels like a bit of a turning point for us to reimagine our lives, our community. And so my encouragement to someone who's maybe hesitant or a little stuck is just to think like, what do you picture? Like, how would you imagine your church actually like bringing like life and joy to you and to the people you care about? What would it look like for church to be more than just something that you go every so often on a Sunday morning? Like if you were to actually think of this space as yours, as an opportunity for you to reach your neighbors, like have you thought about your space, your church's lobby as a tool in your toolkit for reaching people for Jesus? Like, I would just say, think differently, reimagine what normal could be.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So we got like 6 more weeks to talk about this.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
Give us kind of a teaser. What should we be paying attention to? What's coming up? I know there's a lot of like extra things to do.
There's
like
different
extra
events.
Give us like a little taste of what we can expect the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. Each week we're going to go to different, like I said, we're going to go to Acts 16 to look at the origin story of the Church of Philippi, and we'll talk about that this week. And then the rest of the weeks will be in different parts of Philippians to talk through some of Paul's encouragements for them. But we also, as you said, we have all these different events. One of them that's coming up soon, I would encourage you guys to go to gracechurch.us/reimagine if you want information about this. But we have what we're calling a vision gathering on February 23rd, right after the 11 o'clock service. And what it's going to be is that accurate? Is that the right time?
Yes,
it is. All right.
It's 12:15 to 1:45.
12:15 to 1:45. It's basically just a chance to come have a little bit of food and or snacks or something, and just hear more behind the scenes of what this is all about, and then have your questions answered. And even if you don't feel like you have a whole bunch of questions, this is also a chance for you to hang out with other people who do have questions, hear what other people are wondering about. And I'm already hearing people come up to me with new ideas about like, I want this. What about this?
Yeah.
Have you thought about this? It's exciting and engaging to hear what other people are excited about. It's energizing. Yeah. So if you are kind of that hesitant person, you're having trouble catching the vision, come to the vision gathering. It's a perfect thing. And then what else? You want to talk about the other events? Want me to talk about them?
Well, I know that there's a praise and worship night.
There is a prayer and worship night. Yes.
And I'll be part of that.
High energy
on
worship.
March 5th. March 5th at Grace Church at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Prayer and worship experience.
Yes.
So it's basically a time for us to pray for our ones, pray for the initiative, pray for the church, pray for one another, and then worship God together.
And it'll be fun. People have been asking for worship night for a long time. So I'm excited that we're able to do this.
Yeah. The Just for Fun event is on, what's the date of that? You have it pulled up?
Yep. That is March
23rd? No, that's the end of the campaign.
March 16th.
16th. Oh yeah, it's the day after my birthday. That's how I should remember it. Duh. March 16th, we are having a Just for Fun event, and it is literally what it sounds like. It's just for fun. However, the design of it is to create an atmosphere that you might be able to invite your one to come to. Now, if your one lives in Chicago, that's not going to work. If your one is exceedingly hostile to all things church, probably not the right time for that. But maybe they have a family that would enjoy coming and seeing a magician, or like the crazy petting zoo that we'll have, or there's going to be like donuts, and there's going to be
if your
line
one
dancing.
likes donuts, they should come.
Yeah, right. Who doesn't? So, but it's going to be a whole bunch of different stuff, and just like some food and music, and it'll just be a great, fun kind of community time. So it's the kind of thing designed to invite your one, if they're at a place that they might actually be willing to come to something like that.
If they like fun.
If they like fun.
and
I'll say this, like, there's no bait and switch. So there's no like altar call. There's no, it's literally just for fun. And it's just to get them in the door, rub shoulders with Grace people, and yeah, and just have a good time.
Yeah. And then on March 9th, right? That
Yeah.
is where we're kind of going to all come together as a church community
Yes.
and make a commitment, make
Commitment
2 different
Sunday.
commitments. Yeah, we're calling it Commitment Sunday, where we're making 2 commitments. We're going to commit to praying for our one.
Yeah.
This is a 2-year thing. So praying for our
2-year
one,
commitment.
and then a financial commitment of some
Right.
kind towards this initiative.
Right. Over and above your normal giving
Yep.
to Grace. So
Yep.
yeah, it'll be, I think, a really sacred moment. There's several moments in scripture that always catch my attention of when the community of God comes together and just offers from their own heart what they feel led to offer. And it's always such a sacred moment when you see the people of God sharing so generously. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited just to see, sorry, still lingering. My
I
little
can't
cough.
imagine why
Yeah.
you're feeling sick.
That's fine. But it's also an opportunity to just see how many ones we're now committed to as a community, which will be really cool. And then we have Celebration Sunday on the last week of the series, which is, what's the day? March
23rd.
23rd. That's the date I was trying to say. Yes,
There's
yes.
a lot of dates to
There's
keep
a lot
straight.
of dates. But March 23rd is going to be a unified service. So we're just going to do one service at 10 o'clock. And so it'll be everybody at Grace all together. And it'll be when we can celebrate what God's done. We'll have a big reveal of how many ones we've committed to and how much money has been pledged for this. And I think it's going to be a great excuse for us to just celebrate together and have an awesome time. So
I don't know if you guys have been following this, but on our kind of internal Teams chats, it's kind of like Slack, but it's Microsoft Teams. Carrie Honeycutt, director of children's ministry,
yeah.
posted she's been this past weekend. She asked kids, I guess, like, what would you want to see at Grace? Like what would make it a better place? And everything from like way more donuts to a water park outside.
Yeah.
But it was cool because she said, let's see what she said. 4 kids in a row said some version of English lessons and Spanish lessons so that we can communicate better with our friends.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Like that's what they want from their church. That's cool.
Which let's give it to them.
Bring them on Monday nights.
Yeah. All right. So where are we going next week? What's happening week 2?
So week 2, we're going to Acts 16. We're going to look at how the church in Philippi got started, how it all began. And it'll be a good excuse to talk a little bit about how Grace Church began and kind of look back a little bit at who we were and who we've become.
Good. All right. So it'll just be the 3 of us for the next foreseeable
We could bring Dad or Tim on next week if we really
That
wanted
would
to be
be cool.
crazy, because we're going to show a little video where I interviewed the 2 of them.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Yeah, maybe we'll try to get him in here.
yeah, just a thought.
All right. Cool. All right. I'll be back next week. Until then, look at your devotionals. Get one of these books.
He's showing it again.
We put a lot of work into these books. We really want people to get as many as possible because the spiritual impact, I think, will be good if you engage with the devotional each week. So,
And there's like extra bonus fun facts and stuff and music suggestions and stuff if you scan the QR code in the book.
Yep, lots of stuff. So do that. But until then, Maren, will you please send us out?
I will. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God.
And we'll see you on the other side of Sunday.